it started with the retirement of one Roy Williams, and a guy that's one of the greatest in our sport. I mean, no doubt about it. And, I had heard the rumblings, especially over the last week, Rob, because you started to hear that a lot of guys were going to go pro from Carolina or were going to transfer, and that Roy was getting frustrated and he might call it a career. But then as recently as like 2 days ago, he's calling recruits. So I think he was still torn up until the last 48 hours. But ultimately, from talking to people, it was a combination of things. He's 70 years old, number one. They're not going to have a chance to win a national title next year. He's frustrated by the fact that he's never had kids transfer out of his program until the last couple of years, and now there's a bunch. And then you add in the name, image, likeness that's on the horizon. And it just, the landscape is completely changing in college basketball. I think Roy's the first of multiple guys that are older anyway, whether it's Kay, Boeheim, maybe Leonard. I know he just signed an extension, but I think a lot of these guys are going to get frustrated with the changing landscape of college basketball.
Did you think it was an April Fool's joke? Because I did. I thought it was like the ultimate April Fool's prank.
So the reason why I didn't was I just got my daughter had texted me and said, Dad, I just got a speeding ticket. Mom's going to be pissed at me. And it hit me right away. I'm like, you can't be this dumb, because she just got in an accident. Not a bad accident, but she hit a snowbank coming out of our driveway. I'm like, you cannot have done this again. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, all right, called her up. I said, yeah, April Fool's, whatever. And then literally 5 minutes later, the Roy stuff broke. So I didn't think it was April Fool's, but I called Steve Kirshner from Carolina immediately just to say, hey, done, right? He said, yeah, not an April Fool's joke.
Wow. What a run he had at Carolina. I mean, 3 national titles, 14 seasons there?
Yeah.
I mean, some of the teams he had were so loaded. Like, I look back on the Ty Lawson group with Burrow and Danny Green, and just certainly the Sean May group as well that knocks off Illinois. I mean, those two teams are some of the best had in the sport. So I just think, a really good guy to deal with. When you did a Carolina game, Roy Williams was so accommodating and just a nice person. I really enjoyed. I don't get to do many ACC games, but I did a Louisville, North Carolina game my first year of doing this randomly. I got the old switcheroo. Moved off of Trae Young in Texas to North Carolina, Louisville. But yeah, kind of a sad thing for me. He's been such a staple. As a kid, he was at Kansas, goes to Carolina, and man, I know we talked about this earlier, but there are a lot of guys that in the next probably 5, 6, 7 years are going to be hanging it up, and it's going to be really weird.
Yeah, and there aren't, and I don't want to get yet onto it, but what we will in a second here, there aren't a ton of candidates in the family. But first, like, where does Roy rank for you among like the elite coaches in college basketball? Is he, top 5? Is he top 10? Obviously you've got like the guys like Wooden, Kay, that we at a different level. After that, 3 national titles. He's had 2 of the best jobs in America. And a lot of people hammered him for that, Rob. A lot of people over the years were like, he rolls the ball out. He's had the 2 best jobs in college basketball. I don't think he quite got his credit.
Yeah, you still got to get the players there, and you still got to coach them up. He had to work hard to get the Kansas job. It's not like they just dole that out to you and me. So, right. He certainly has been in 2 really good places, but I don't know. You mentioned Wooden, you mentioned Coach K. He can't be that far behind. He's got to be the top
the
6
next year.
Yeah, I think he's he's top 6, 7 coach in college basketball. He had a phenomenal career, and I don't think you can ever ding a guy for where he's at. He had to get there first, and he was a Carolina guy. He paid his dues to get that job as an assistant, and a guy that the Carolina family trusted. And yeah, I think he's got to be one of the top 6 or 7 coaches that we've had in college basketball.
Yeah, he was always very fair to me. Even when you criticize him, extremely fair. We had a couple of mishaps.
Who have you
One
done?
involved. I know this one honestly wasn't either one of our faults. I'm trying to remember all the specifics, but it was basically when all this stuff came out about the academic scandal. There were a bunch of Carolina players that sent a letter to me, I believe. I don't know if I was at ESPN or maybe at CBS. A bunch of players sent a letter to me, emailed me a letter, and Roy, for some reason, didn't think that I used the letter or something like that, that I didn't do what the players wanted me to do. And I sent it along to, I think it was ESPN, maybe the desk or whatnot. And then it was kind of out of my hands. So I remember he wouldn't let me into practice. And usually he was great about letting me in. And I had no idea why the next year. I asked him to go to practice. No, I'm not allowed in. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I remember being up in the top where you watch practice at Carolina, up high in the balcony. And Steve Kirshner came up and he said something about it. And I said, Steve, I'll pull it up on my phone right here. You can see that I forwarded it to the desk. And that was it. Then it's kind of out of my hands. They can do with it whatever they want. And I showed it to him. And after that, Roy and I were great. But like for almost a year, he was thinking that I didn't do what, again, the players wanted me to do, which was pass along this letter that was signed by a bunch of the Carolina players when everything kind of first went down about the academic fraud. So, yeah, it was a misunderstanding, Robbie, a misunderstanding.
Glad you cleared that up. Thank God.
Yeah, I know. Well, it did bother me, though. That one bothered me. Like, I brought on a lot of those to myself with maybe some of the issues I've had, but I've never had an issue with Roy because he's always, to me, he's always been pretty forthright. Like, he's not he's entertaining. You could see it in press conferences. He'll get frustrated. He'll say it exactly how he feels. And sometimes people haven't liked that, but I enjoy it. I think you kind of know what Roy's thinking. I think we knew what Roy was thinking here over these last couple of weeks. Is like, I just don't know if I want to do it anymore. You know, I don't know if I want to do it.
Yeah, and who can blame him? I mean, he's been there forever. He's 70 years old. Go play golf every day. Do what you enjoy.
He probably will. He probably will play golf every day, and he'll be much better at it than you.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how good he is, so you never know.
I don't know. I think he's good.
Go and get.
So I think you have to keep it in the Carolina family.
It's like Indiana kind of word.
Yes. Even more.
So.
No, even more. The Carolina family is like this, Rob. Like, it is so tight. Those dudes from all eras like hang out together. They come down. They play ball against each other in the off season. Like, it's like no other program. Seriously, no other program, because it spans back further than all the other ones because you have the connection with Dean and Roy. It's just been so long for that same kind of family. You know, Matt Doherty when he came in, obviously. So I think it's going to stay in the family. If you're asking me if I'm a betting man, who they're going to hire, I would put my money on Hubert Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I would put my money on Hubert Davis. I would hire Wes Miller, you know, at 38 years old, played at Carolina, has a little more energy than Hubert. Like, Hubert's a great guy from everything I heard, but a lot of people question that are close to him whether he's the right guy for that job, or it's another kind of Dean Smith, Bill Guthridge type deal. And Hubert's a better assistant than he is a head coach. I think Wes Miller is the right guy for the job because he's done it in a mid-major. He's grinded it. I don't know how much Hubert has been involved in recruiting, to be honest, over the last few years. But like, Wes is in the area. Yeah, he hasn't recruited high major dudes, but you know, he knows all the guys that you probably need to know for the most part in that area, AAU-wise.
Is there anybody outside of the Carolina, like could a Chris Holtman get a call, or a Matt Painter, or is it just like
I just don't think they'll do it. Yeah, I just don't think, again, that if I'm Carolina and Bubba Cunningham – now the only thing you'd say is Bubba Cunningham, their AD, is not a Carolina guy. So maybe. But I think he's going to get pushback. If he tries to go outside the family, I think all those former players will be pissed off. So I think, you know, the first thing you do is go in the family if you can. And if there's nobody there, which, again, listen, neither Wes Miller or Hubert Davis or Jerry Stackhouse, my guy, or or King Rice or Jared Haas. None of them are like same thing at Duke, by the way. When this thing opens at Duke, we're gonna have the same scenario of like, who do we go with? Is there a guy within the family? I just can't see a scenario where they don't keep it in the family.
I haven't seen his name, and honestly, this is bad. I'm not. I assume he's still on the bench. Is Steve Robinson still an assistant?
Yes.
Long
time assistant.
I remember seeing Roy at the Nike All-America camp and some of those AAU tournaments, and he was his lead guy then. Like, does he get a call?
Yes. I don't think so. I mean, remember he was coach at Florida State years ago. 63 years old, maybe. Again, I think if you're going to go with somebody in the staff, you're probably going to go with Hubert Davis. You probably are. And again, I don't know if it works or not, but I think the other part is, does Roy want Hubert Davis? You know, how much say does Roy Williams have in his successor? I think he'll have quite a bit.
Makes sense. Crazy.